I used to think that I was called to ministry specifically, and I never questioned it until that chapter ended suddenly, until I left ministry. And then I suffered for over a decade because of the misunderstanding I had. That is what is prompting this video. If I can help clear up the misunderstanding between career versus calling for anyone else, that will help you not only avoid the suffering that comes from a misunderstanding of the terms, but will also help you confidently reclaim your calling and do it in a more bold way, no matter what the outer title of it might be, then this video will have succeeded. In case you're meeting for the very first time, my name is April Bragg, and I am a clarity coach. I help gifted but overextended entrepreneurs simplify their life and business so they can do more, help more people, but without the burnout that so often accompanies um, people who are good at doing so many things and have a difficulty finding which way to focus. So, that's a little bit of my story, but the other part, oh, and also on this video, I had to look at my notes. I want to share the three powerful truths. There's three of these that help me let go of the guilt, the pressure, all the confusion around calling, and finally just start living it confidently, peacefully, powerfully. And so that's my humble offering. I hope it helps you. If it does, please put it in the chat. If you have any questions or if I'm not clear about something, please put that in the chat. I'll be glad to clear that up. But let's just dive in. Okay. So here's my story. Years ago, I was in full time ministry. I was a missionary. In fact, as a teenager, I remember agonizing over this. I wanted to do something great for God and kept on thinking I needed to know the answer. I needed to know the answer. I need to know it now. And through that big questioning, I got a heavy burden for missions. And so I surrendered to full time Christian ministry, and that gave me a focus. And so then I went to college and I got a degree and found a husband, and that gave me another focus. It's like, oh, well, we can go to this mission field. Ah, my husband knows where he's headed. Let's go there. And that worked out great, kept me focused, kept me on track. And I was excited about the work. I'm not going to say that I wasn't. In fact, I thought one of the reasons I thought I was excited about it is because I thought it's the best that I could do. Like, this is the pinnacle of my faith. This is the best offering that I could offer to God. I had surrendered for everything. I trained for it. I was being diligent with it to the best of my abilities. And it didn't hurt, I'll be honest, that on the backside of it, I also got a lot of praise for it, like a lot of affirmation from my family, my church family, my peers. It was very, very reaffirming. And then suddenly on Mother's Day, it ended. Not because I quit on God. That is not what was in my heart, even if it may have appeared on the outside to others. And I completely understand that because I probably would have thought something about that, about other people who left the mission field. But because my husband and I had a real sense that God was calling us to something different, even though we weren't sure what that was, something that I couldn't define, he couldn't define. Um, but we both felt it. We both prayed about, we both fasted about it. We both came home off the mission field where we had been doing, great. You know, we were starting to see fruits of our labor. It was very exciting, but we felt like a distinct, this is not where God has us. And he didn't tell us why. And so that led to what I call my decade of doubt. Most painful decade internally for me, but the most, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I would not trade my journey for anything. It has shaped everything from then. It has anchored me in my faith and my calling and my career in a greater way. Me sharing my story has helped others. And so you don't trade something away that you see so much treasure, so much benefit coming out of it on the backside. So for that decade, I felt lost. I felt guilty. In my darkest moments, I questioned, why did God take us away from the mission field? Did we misunderstand? Or were we not worthy of the calling? What happened here? Until I realized this: a career is time bound, but a calling is timeless. And my calling had never changed, just the career, the vehicle that had shaped it, the way that I thought it was going to take shape, that had changed. So that's truth number one. Your career is not your calling, it's just one way to express it. A calling is who you are becoming and who you're here to serve. And I tend to think of a calling as something that gets more clear with time, with effort, and with experiments. Gone are the days when people are born into a pathway. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that. Maybe gone are not the days when people are born into a pathway. I think of perhaps the future heirs to the throne of England, to that kingdom. You know, they're from the day they're born. They've got some designated roles, and so maybe for some people it's like that. But for most of us, I think it is way more helpful to think of a career as a time bound expression of a calling, and a calling being something that we can actually look inward, see what we're gifted towards, see what we're drawn towards, see where our interests lie, and pursue that, understanding that in the pursuit of that, it will actually become more clear. It will become more refined, more explicit, more narrowed and niche, maybe as we go. But we don't need to know exactly what it looks like as we start out on the journey of it. Jordan Peterson actually helped me with this understanding when he defined Abraham's calling as a call to adventure. And it just kind of clicked to me. Oh, that is how it felt for my husband and I. In fact, on that fateful Mother's Day, and I think it was May of 2026 or 2006, somewhere around there. I remember Mother's Day specifically because I kept on thinking my husband ruined my Mother's Day. I had a plan. My plan is disrupted. What just happened? Mother's Day is ruined. I am in such confusion and chaos, and what are we going to do? Bless his heart. I do not like uncertainty in my life. So anyway, but the passage that God was using to speak to us and to really confirm it was the story of Abraham stepping out on faith to a land that he did not know. And that passage just came so alive in our lives in a way that, in fact, in other pivotal times in our lives, that has been the passage that we've leaned on, that has strengthened our faith when we couldn't quite see the outcome or the destination. Again, I'm a person that loves a clear plan. I'm a clarity coach, for heaven's sake. So, I want to get people as clear as possible, even when there's not clarity. This is why I believe we can have a measure of peace and sufficient clarity for the day, even if we just can't even see the end of it. So, um, because that's how God's taught me how to hold clarity and how to create a plan, but how to hold it loosely enough for more direction to be revealed. So, the calling is who you are becoming and who you're here to serve. It's going to be a dim picture. The Bible talks about that. It's going to be a dim picture for a while, and then it's going to become more clear. But that doesn't mean that we don't do anything until it becomes more clear. It means that I being in the way, the Lord led me. We start taking the steps by faith. And as we step forward, the path makes itself more clear. The strategy and the plan makes itself more clear. We have more confidence as we proceed in faith. So, a calling is like a through line that runs through every season. When you look back, you'll be able to see your calling so much more clearly through the seasons of your life. You'll be able to say, oh, even when I was there, I did that. Even in that career, I did that. Why? Because it's an expression of who I am, of my fullest identity. And it can't help but not come out. In fact, the only reason it doesn't come out are the times when I think there's something wrong with it or there's something wrong with me. That is a tragic shame. So, when I was a missionary, it looked like service and sacrifice. My calling looked like service and sacrifice, going to the field. When I became a stay at home mom, it looked like presence and perspective. And when I became a coach, it revealed itself in clarity and transformation. My calling was there all the way through. It's the clarity, the focus, the plan that I would bring to get to the mission field. It was the diligence that I had and the certainty that I was supposed to train my kids this way, not that way, even though it might be different from other people's way. When I became a coach, it became becoming a coach became the fullest expression vehicle to date of my calling. But in every season, I was still doing what I had always been called to do, which was reducing chaos, expanding peace, helping people gain the sacred clarity that they needed to succeed. And it's fascinating. Like, even on the mission field, I was more of a mentor of, let me help you see God more clearly so that you will desire Him, uh, than I was a typical, the way we have been trained to be missionaries, like door knocker, pass out tracts, that type of thing, get them saved and move on. No, that was let's take it deep, let's disciple, let's mentor every season. So your job might change, but your calling won't. Okay, truth number 2: ministry is not a title, it is a way of being. If there is any pet peeve I have, well, let's be honest, I have multiple pet peeves. But one of my pet peeves is this one: thinking that full time Christian service is the way to do ministry. Thinking that there is a difference between the minister and the layperson, having this disjointed split between our service to God and our service to others. I think that creates this two-tiered hierarchical. Some people are more holy than others. Some people have a closer relationship to God than others. Some people are meant to lead and others are meant to follow. I don't think that has any place in ministry, in the Christian walk, in us living out our faith in its fullest expression. I don't think that we should be separating ministry from to assigning ministry as a full-time career to some people. So, you don't have to be behind a pulpit to have a full-time ministry. If you are helping someone rise, if you are helping them see the truth, or step into that freedom that you are ministering. You I remember my dad saying one of the biggest mistakes of his life was when so he was a full-time mechanic. He was a full-time a lot of things. Full-time mechanic, farming on the side, full-time on the weekends, raising 9 kids, being a faithful deacon at the church, so many things, taking care of his widowed mother and, widowed sister, just so many things. I mean, he was just making himself available for so many people. But he said one of the mistakes that really hit him, God used to convict him one time was, some of the men at work who were not Christians, didn't even pretend to be. And it was kind of a rough environment. And well, anyway, somebody was in the hospital, and the other guys were like, "Hey, we're going to go visit him tonight. Are you going to come with us?" And he says, "I can't. It's Wednesday night." As it not that he had like a prior commitment to serve, he just in his mind was so kind of like around the habit of Wednesday night I go to church. Wednesday, you're supposed to go to church, be faithful to church. Don't forsake the not forsaking the gathering of yourselves. If the doors are open, you should be there. And afterwards, the Spirit convicted him and was like, no, that was ministry. The thing you said no to was ministry. And we just get a little bit rigid in our thinking sometimes, thinking, ministry is attending church. No, ministry is what we do outside the church doors, if we're going to be really honest about it. Ministering is us, well, it's the love your neighbor as yourself. It's the good Samaritan who on the way, the priest and the Levite, the holy people, passed their fellow countrymen laying in the ditch, and the Samaritan who was, not who was down. Excuse me, I'm stuttering here. Who had fewer natural ties to that man was the person who volunteered to help him with all the gifts and all the resources at his disposal. That is ministry. That is you taking what's at your disposal, sharing it with others. And in that sharing, you are shining the light of God to somebody else. I think that's the definition of ministry. I think that's a good, workable definition of ministry. So for me, some of my ministry looks like a coaching call, doing a YouTube video like this that feels a little bit vulnerable, or honestly listening in the spirit as a coaching client says to me, I've never told somebody else this, and they say something that an older version of April would not have been able to hear. But as I have pursued calling and as I step into the power of the Holy Spirit, I realize it's not just me, it's the Spirit. The Spirit is allowing this moment to happen, and He is here to take the burden of this conversation and use it in to bring healing, to bring transformation, to bring whatever is needed in this moment. So, if there's anything I can say, it's stop waiting to be ordained to start your ministry. If you're alive, if you're aligned to your Creator, if you're available, God is already using you. Maybe you just haven't been calling it that. Look and see, what is my ministry, even if it takes unusual forms? What are the highest expressions of my love and showing the love of God to others? And it might be in your career. It might be, but it's something that's unique to you that honestly, I don't know that anybody else can give. So I think that God is so incredibly magnificent and beyond our comprehension that there's just a piece of him that he plants in each one of us. And it's unique in a way that only we can mirror the love of God. What if you believed that and owned that and stepped into that? All right. And then truth number 3. You don't have to choose between your calling and your career when you design your business to serve your calling. So, most burnout, for my clients, most burnout happens when they feel like their business is calling them away from their purpose, or they separate it in their mind somehow. When I think most times it's just a lack of imagination or it's a lack of understanding of how these things can work together, how we don't need work life balance. They're a beautiful blending of each other. So, when your business or when your career, because when I'm talking to somebody, so often my clients are entrepreneurs, but every once in a while I'll have a client who is a career person. And so they're wondering, how does my career work with this? And it's, well, your career is really the business of you, as in, it's a little bit short term to think I'm trying to serve this job because jobs change, roles change, promotions change. So, really, you kind of want to think of you as your own business and what are you offering the company under the guise of a job or in the line of work of a career. So it's always still about you. It's about how you can hone your talents and your gifts and improve your skills and become a fuller version of you or a more valuable version to get that promotion, because that's always a helpful thing, and to have more influence. So when you see your career or your business as the vehicle that is expressing that you're using for your assignment, who you are, who you help, how you bring transformation, it becomes, you'll understand it. It's so much better as a vehicle, and it won't feel like a prison. Maybe you need to upgrade your vehicle every once in a while to a faster vehicle. Maybe you've been doing it the horse and buggy way and you need a sports car. Or maybe a sports car is too small and you need a Boeing 747. But think of your career or your business as the vehicle that you are filling with your calling, that you are utilizing in the fulfillment of your calling. And I think that's just a more helpful way of seeing it. So, yes, careers are time bound, but callings are timeless. And so, for me, to wrap up the story, I spent, 10 years doubting that, not understanding that truth. And then as I started to see, wait, whatever happened to that verse about, I think it's 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do it all to the glory of God. And when I started owning that, then I started paying attention to, what am I actually good at? Not just what am I good enough to volunteer to do, but what are things that about me that are uniquely gifted to me? In fact, I remember one day when my daughter's like, "Mom, you're kind of like a stay-at-home CEO." And I'm like, "Oh, well, there's a picture I could lean into. Huh. I wonder what." And that stayed with me. But I also paid attention to, what are the things that are just naturally interesting me, like economics, like business principles. When my husband started a business, then I was just fascinated by entrepreneurship. Went into a big deep dive to understand money and how it works, and abundance, and efficiency, and how all those things work together, and how do you grow and how do you scale, and what else, and how does it affect other areas, and how does it affect the economy, and how does the economy affect business? And then I started going into psychology and, how does the Bible work with psychology, and how does truth work with this field of study? And in between all of that, I started enjoying helping others find faster ways to reach their goals, more aligned because they were more aligned, so they felt easier. And I enjoyed that so much. And it just became a very natural progression that had unnecessary amounts of worry in between. That is what I'm trying to prevent for you. Listen to this video. Understand your calling is the through line through it all. And the more that you trust that it's there and that you'll look for it, or if you need help finding it, then I think in the description I put a clarity call. That is an ideal place for us to talk about it. But the more that you understand that the calling is the through line and the career is just the vehicle or just the moment in time, and that in the end, ministry is, how about we say it this way? Ministry is the motivation that we do things. Like I'm seeing this as a benefit to not only myself, but to others around me. And I am doing it in the fullest alignment with and grounding with an embodiment of the gifts that God has given me. And I'm signed up for it wholeheartedly, just wholeheartedly. I'm excited about this. I am bringing an extra liveliness to this poor, jaded, cynical world. Maybe that's what ministry gets to be, is the way that we express it. Anyway, those are my thoughts. In fact, I did a Substack. If you follow me on Substack, or if you prefer reading, is a little bit more cohesive there. But this was just my more expansive thoughts on the topic of career versus calling, and how it confused me for years until I stopped assuming that missionary was the highest calling and started realizing that missionary was a temporary career, but my calling was still there. All right. So if you are in a season of transition or just questioning whether your current work aligns with your deeper purpose, I would love to help. So you can book a clarity call, leave a question in the chat, and or send me an email. I think if you'll go to aprilbragg.com and subscribe to my newsletter, then you'll get my email. Okay. All right. Let me see if I've missed anything else in my notes. Oh, I do want to say on that clarity call, one of the benefits of it is this: we take the time to find the one thing that's slowing you down or weighing you down, and then decide what to do about it so you can get into motion again. It's hugely beneficial for anybody who feels stuck in a moment in time and feels like, oh, I'm not reaching my full potential. I feel stuck right now. So that's one of the benefits of that. But remember this: your calling has not left you. It's waiting for you to reclaim it. It's waiting to be reclaimed by you. And if you'd like help, I'd be honored to offer that to you. Okay? All right. Hope this is beneficial. Talk to you next week. Bye bye.